Welcome to part 4 of the World campaign Abridged, where in the previous part we, in a very pacifist sort of way, conquered and bribed our way to controlling most of the galaxy effectively through our Federation and protectorates / vassals. The wars were long, tedious and annoying, but ultimately victorious, and we were never threatened at all. So now we're moving on into the final part of the campaign, where you can see me here bribing some more factions to get favours. The reason for this is that now that we have virtually all of the galaxy in this one federation, I need to make it my federation. It's sort of mine in that I started it, but other people can control it due to its laws. So I'm here using my favours with all of the other factions to persuade them to change the law so that the strongest faction always rules the federation, and that's me. So there we go, now we're officially the life president, although that has no particular use because we don't have the DLC, I think, that makes federations actually do things. At the top you can see a few notifications going by there. That's because at this stage I'm upgrading all of my fleets, fortifying everything, upgrading all of the defense platforms around our stations. We've got 28 around all of our fully upgraded stations, meaning each space station we have is roughly equivalent in strength to one of our fleets, and we have 28 of those space stations. So we're actually pretty powerful right now. And it seemed like things were about to start, although this wasn't what I expected. We get the Galactic Power Surge event, which I recognized from the previous time I played Stellaris. It means the Unbidden are showing up. Basically some ghosts from another dimension are going to come and invade us. The thing is, this wasn't the special endgame crisis that was advertised at the beginning as being part of the mod. You might recall I selected some setting that means something like the consequences or something would spawn alongside 3 additional crises. Whether that means 3 separate crises that can happen at other times, I don't know. That would be disappointing if that is what it means, because that will probably be fine. Anyway, so right now we're fighting just one crisis, the Unbidden, and when I say we're fighting them, I'm actually lying, because this slight anticlimax proved to be more underwhelming than I possibly could have imagined. And that is because one of the ancient empires had their ships where the Unbidden were. I don't know if there was a convenient wormhole or something, but pretty much right after the Unbidden spawned, an ancient empire just pulled all of their fleets together and went to kill them. And as it happens, an ancient empire does have enough stuff to overcome an endgame crisis. It's just because normally these fleets would be split apart more. Once the Empire combines everything, they have a massive fleet strength, and while the endgame crisis also has a massive fleet strength, its stuff's a bit more split up. Here was the Unbidden's best chance to stop the ancient Imperials, but it's not going to happen actually. This fight goes on as I sit back playing the game just thinking, well, that was pointless. These ships, which have been here since the very beginning of the campaign, just went and solved the crisis. If I'd done nothing, if I hadn't pressed any buttons on the keyboard, we still would have defeated the endgame crisis. That's about as easy as it can possibly be, and I expected it to be harder than the last time I tried this. We've got the crisis strength on 1.25 to make it a bit more powerful, and I was expecting to face 4 at the same time. Instead, just one of the NPC factions that did nothing for the whole campaign is just going and absolutely wiping them out. And here they are in the Unbidden's home system where they're spawning from. They're respawning their fleets out of their dimensional rift, but they have no chance of overcoming the ancient empire. So they die. Soon enough, the space station and the rift itself gets taken down as well, and the crisis is over. We saved the galaxy, guys. Well, no, we didn't even do anything. So the Federation's looking pretty embarrassed right now. There's no better way to wash away the tears than to randomly be at war with someone else. So here you can see someone's trying to start a war with the Harmonious Commonwealth down at the bottom. The guys we've killed a couple of times, gradually breaking up their alliance. They're currently also in an alliance with the guys to our west, who we also killed recently. So we're just sailing out and fighting a bunch of people who don't have that much fleet power since we blew up their fleets not that long ago. And, well, it's pretty easy. They can't really stop us at this point, so we just occupy as many systems as we can. Some of the battles are trivial, like this one, where the enemy die in seconds. We did eventually find, though, a more substantial fleet right down at the bottom of the Harmonious guys' territory. They had a few guys huddling around one of their final bases. They put up something of a shiny fight, but we do still have a massive advantage. Although I did wonder, with that balance bar-like thing on the left, the enemy apparently had the advantage going into this, which doesn't appear to match up with the numbers. We're having some Hearts of Iron flashbacks right here. Anyway, we do destroy them, capture the base, and ultimately we have to go around and occupy their systems and stuff to make them accept the ideology change war goal, which they do, and as a result, the guys to our west are then brought into the Federation, so it's yet another of our friendship wars successfully won, and now we dominate the universe even more. Well, I say the universe, the galaxy. It's just the Harmonious Confederation that isn't in the Federation, but everyone didn't want them to join, so we couldn't really resolve that whole situation in the end. We did, though, still get some war action, because one of the fallen empires, or the ancient empires I should say, decided to start invading the guys who just came into the Federation. So because we're allied to them, now we can fight one of these ancient empires, and these guys do have some decent stuff among them, so a bit of a challenge for us. That said, I also have quite decent stuff, and loads of it due to my gigantic fleet capacity. Although I was then taken by surprise, this one-star fleet that looks like it's invading my territory turned out to actually be an attack moon, so someone else has violated the ban on attack moons I tried to implement. Very cheeky. Even though I'm taken by surprise, and their number here is much higher than my number with the fleet trying to stop them, it appears to be trying to move through my fleet. It doesn't really kill them and then just gets killed itself, or it teleports away I should say. They did an emergency jump, so it's still alive somewhere. But seeing that, I was like, well, that's their main thing taken out, let's just press in with everything and go fight them. They do have some good fleets and some good stations, but we can overpower them. We're going to actually take losses, which is the difference between this war and some of the other wars. But of course, we can make, at this stage in the campaign, 180 ships at the same time due to our Hyperforge upgrade things. So losing like 4 ships sets us back about 1 month in terms of production. We can easily turn that around if we want to. They did also have one of those Titan ships, which is insignificant, but I guess interesting in the fact that I can't make it because I don't have the DLC or something. So there was a big spaceship that died, and we continue pressing into their territory with very little resistance. We did face the attack moon again by surprise, just after my fleet split up while jumping between 2 systems. So once again I had to face it with just one of my fleets. This time it looks like the attack moon is more actively killing us. It's rotating around and shooting back, but that proved not to be enough to bring us down. We lost some stuff, and I was thinking I should probably get the other ships to come back, the ones that have already jumped to the neighbouring system. It takes a while for me to do this because I don't know what I'm doing. Eventually we find them, and just before I order them back, the war actually ends. So one of us, one side or the other, was saved in that engagement. It wasn't a very interesting end to the war because they just got white peace with each other, meaning that effectively nothing happens. It's just that the invasion is over. At least we taught those ancients a lesson. We blew up a bunch of their stuff and occupied their territory, making sure they know who's boss around this here galaxy. This actually happened again shortly after. They did the exact same war declaration, and I had to bring my ships back over here to do it again. This time there's a galactic storm event, which is what's going on the screen here, which slows down everything unfortunately. But we're still going to have plenty of power to go and take them out. This time their attack moon departed to the west and invaded my allies, where it found some success. You can see it here soloing some fleets and just taking everything down with its mad spinning maneuvers. So what I wanted to do is get my fleets together and go after that moon to try and take it down. However, before I was able to do that, we actually ended up finishing the war again. I sent these fleets to the west, killed someone or other, lost track of where the moon was. Maybe it was actually defeated by our allies. Seems unlikely because our allies tend to suck. But anyway, the war ends, as I said, and again it's the same ending as before, a not much happens ending. It looks like the ancients got humiliated by this war, so that's something, but it's effectively nothing in the late game. Those influence changes don't matter. So that was that, and then the next thing to happen was we won the campaign. Or did we? someone else actually won the campaign, which is pretty embarrassing. It turns out that those guys who took out the Endgame Crisis faction had the highest score. This is, I think, the only way to see your score, so I just presumed I was winning the whole time. But no, the Ancient Empire wins the campaign when the timer runs out. So what an anticlimax. Not only did those guys actually prevent the Endgame Crisis from affecting anybody, so that's pretty cheeky. I guess this means we've failed the Birch World challenge. We didn't have enough economic growth or something, or technology growth, to actually overpower an Ancient Empire by the time the game's time limit ran out. So that's that. Challenge over. But it's such an unsatisfying ending. I was immediately starting to think, right, we have to prove a point here. If everybody seems to have agreed that these guys are the best faction in the galaxy, we should probably just go and attack them or something. They do have various ships of various strengths, but we have ones of about the same strength, but more of them. They also still have some of their fleet back where the Unbidden were, so we can use that to our advantage by effectively ambushing them by just starting a war while we're right next to them. The thing is, I can't immediately just attack them. Because of my pacifist ideology, I am completely banned from doing offensive wars unless it's to liberate a vassal or something. So what I have to do is try and tempt them to declare war on me, so that I'll have an excuse to go into their space and start killing them. So we start throwing out some diplomatic insults there, while moving fleets into position ready to do stuff. I think I had to insult them 3 times, but after a few rounds of insults, we eventually get a reaction, and they decide they're going to come over and try to conquer us or whatnot. And of course that means they're now at war with virtually the entire galaxy, because the Federation will automatically join this war on my side. We can choose the end threat war goal on our side, which basically means our objective is to end their faction, allowing us to do whatever we want. We're not allowed to claim their systems, so I can't take their territory, but we can completely wipe them out and allow our allies to take their territory using this war goal. So this will be nice and satisfying. Now we just have to actually do it, and we have the element of surprise, because even though the enemy declared this war, we're the ones who have stacked up ready to go, so we can immediately start attacking them. For this one I'm pulling out all the stops. We can do the thing where you spend a whole bunch of your exotic resources to get some bonuses to your ships. We have virtually an unlimited supply of exotic resources because we're not really spending them. Normally you spend them on building upkeep, but we barely have any buildings, so we just have absolutely loads of them, and the Birch World is producing them as a byproduct of something or other. So yeah, we can just buy all these upgrades whenever we want. Now I start pursuing the fleet that defeated the Unbidden. So this is it, our official revenge for them saving the universe. This is what you get for trying to save them before we do. That's them, well, not dead, but teleported away. We'll have to kill them some more later. And now we start pile driving into their territory, back in their home. They do have some fleets that can contend with us, but all of my fleets are in this gigantic death blob that's hard to stop. Although I actually did realise that I was doing the same thing I was doing earlier in the campaign, where my death blob is so concentrated and powerful that the enemy are going to start going around me and invading my own territories while I'm not paying attention, things like that. So I started splitting it up. Not that it matters all that much in this case, because the enemy don't have that many fleets. Here's an engagement between us and one of their fleets. They can probably take us 1-on-1, but 4 or 5-on-1, that's more like it. We take a bunch of casualties, but it's not enough to stop us, as our massive pile of battleships and cruisers and all of the little strike craft as well, the blue things, just annihilate everything. And that's that really. We just need to keep doing that to as many fleets as possible, and we're almost guaranteed to win. We did start this war with overwhelming fleet power, so in a raw numbers contest we can win this one. Unfortunately, that's not going to be so much the case for our allies, who are going to struggle battling against the enemy, mainly because they don't really concentrate their forces together very much at all. It's almost the opposite problem. They have loads of ships and fleets all over the place, but they just send in one fleet at a time and they keep getting killed. Here was a bit of a snafu. A bunch of my fleets accidentally go past an enemy fleet coming towards me, meaning that one fleet at the back of a stack ends up in a one-on-one engagement with an enemy fleet, and it doesn't look like it's going to go that well. In this case, we've got like 4 or 5 other fleets in the same system who absolutely tidal wave their way in to relieve that situation and destroy the enemy some more. So yes, I think with extreme tactics the AI might be able to do something to me in this war, but realistically they can't. And here is the final major space battle as we just stomp another fleet. We did lose perhaps 1 fleet's worth of ships overall in this campaign, which is more than we did in our other wars, but still, they couldn't stop us, and now they're going to start losing their territory. Any system that doesn't have planets in it will automatically just go to a neighbouring power because we're doing the eradication war goal thing. So they're losing fast, although the places with planets in them will remain in their empire until the planets are taken, which is of course a very slow and annoying affair. At the same time, we're also at war, by the way, with the other ancient empire, just again the 3rd run at this random battle between them and the guys to their west, and once again we just go through their territory and flatten them. They barely have any ships left at this point, so it's even easier than before. Now we get around to starting to capture planets, as we can see there, and that's going to actually bring about another failure in the challenge run, you could say. If you look on the right in that list, we now have 2 planets. We have the Birch World and something else. Normally when you occupy a planet, it still remains in the enemy faction, but because we're doing this eradication thing and everything taken just gets transferred to whoever took it essentially, in this case, in any systems that we own for whatever reason, because the game decided we own them, any planets in them will become our planets after occupation. So there you go, we've now failed the 1 planet challenge, we've accidentally got some more planets. It actually took me a while to realise this because I wasn't looking at that thing over there. I think a notification came up talking about resistance to occupation or low stability or something, which eventually tipped me off. In the meantime, here we are again fighting the illegal battle moon the ancient empires have set out. We can strip its shield and armor off right away and then gradually work down its hit points, but again it manages to teleport away before we finish it off, so we'll come back to that guy. Here's me realizing that I do actually have control over some of these planets, and we need to do something about this. The humans are trying to migrate there. This is a disaster for my challenge run, so we stop time and I start looking around thinking, is there some sort of like delete button? Can we blow the planet up in some way to stop this from happening? I eventually do discover an effective way to do this, and it's using the resettle button. I think you unlock this for being maximum authoritarian or something, one of the traditions you can get. We've got them all at this stage, but you do something to unlock this. We can force people to move around, and what we can do is force everybody to move to the Birch World. And as it happens, this actually decolonizes the planet and sets it back to a pre-colonized state, so it looks like we haven't failed the challenge run quite so badly. So with this, we can steal everybody and add to the Birch World, which is of course great because the Birch World's population is proportional to what you can do with the Birch World. And it occurred to me at this very late stage in the game that we could have been doing this the whole time. A possible way to be even more powerful with the Birch World only challenge would be to not be pacifists, but to be militarists and just invade everybody and steal their population. Instead of trying to get them to come over to you gradually via immigration, just go and get them and bring them back with warships, and you could massively increase your population, effectively using the other players as incubators to grow population on their planets, and then you come and steal it when the time is ripe. Perhaps leaving the faction just about alive so they could recolonize and make those populations again. I think that would be a quite nice playstyle, although it would be so overpowered and there'd be no point in doing it because the Birch World would become way more powerful than it is now, but there's no one to fight because you've already killed everyone in the process of making the Birch World powerful. Just conceptually an interesting thing to think about. We could gather up a lot more people than we've done so far. I can't remember quite how many people we got from stealing this ancient empire's population in this fashion, but it was quite a lot. It was like a couple of hundred extra pops gained over the course of like a year, so that's a properly good growth rate. We now encounter again the attacked moon after it comes out of hyperspace or what have you, back in the middle of the ancient empire's territory. We're there waiting for them. I was a bit worried we might not be able to kill them with the guys I had here, but no, we killed it like straight away, and this time I think we did actually kill it because it just disappears, there's no death animation for it. Annoyingly, they have no more fleets, so I can't force any more war exhaustion on them by killing their fleets. Instead, we're going to end that war by just killing them in general. We're going to do massive orbital bombardments and just kill their population, blow up their stuff, and maybe they'll stop being so uppity after that. Again, a good pacifist faction thing to do. Now here we are a bit later, with more population being stolen, and we've now stolen so much we've actually managed to fill up the Birch World's jobs for the first time ever. We've never even come close before, but there we go, we have unemployed people on the Birch World, and that's actually causing people to leave. We're getting reverse immigration, people are going to seek work elsewhere, which, well, I don't really see why they're doing that. We're pretty rich, we can offer them all of the luxury space automatic communism and all that sort of stuff, but if they want to work then fine. We're going to make some black hole mines or however we're generating resources on here, and each one you make adds like 150 extra jobs, so we can easily employ them. Just need to wait a while to build these giant extra sections of the Birch World. That's nice then, isn't it? We're going to be even richer than before because all of those new workers are going to be outputting massive amounts of resources, so we now just have an effectively unlimited amount of everything. I could try and make a bigger fleet to spend some of it, but we just don't really need to. Well, anyway, let's cut to the final moments of the Ancient Empire as we steal the last of the available population, and they are now officially gone. So, now when people ask who won the campaign, well, they can't say it was them because they don't exist, and to the extent that they do exist, a load of them are on the Birch World. The greatest concentration of their population is part of my faction. So let's just say that I won. That is, of course, the meaning of all of this extremely peaceful and xenophilic mass murder and deportation schemes. Now with this, we've pretty much completed the game. We've more than completed the game. But I am going to make one more part in this series to try and get what I want, because I was looking up something on the wiki, and I noticed you can use debug commands to force endgame crises to happen, which you might have noted they didn't happen with the multiple rounds that I was expecting. So what I can do is actually just have all of the available crises spawn at the same time by the looks of things. I think I don't have DLC for some of them, so maybe it's not going to work. Basically, I'm just going to try and force a massive war using the debug commands to make a use of my massively powerful empire, and actually try to get some use out of our Let's Save the Galaxy Federation by putting the Federation up against something that might actually threaten the galaxy. I'm not sure how well that's going to go, but there might be another part in this series if it goes well and something interesting happens, so join me for that if you see it.